Hello and welcome to Authors Unbound, a mini web series by the MyTech Group that seeks to connect authors to their intended readers. I'm Arpit Agarwal, and my guest today is Professor Ranjay Gulati with his sixth book, Deep Purpose, the Heart and Soul of High Performance Companies. Professor Gulati, for those who do not know him, is former head of the Organizational Behavior Unit at Harvard Business School. He also chaired the Advanced Management Program at Harvard. Professor Gulati is ranked as one of the top 10 most cited scholars in economics and business by ICI Insight. The Economist, Financial Times, and the Economist Intelligence Unit have listed him as amongst the top handful of business school scholars whose work is most relevant to management practice. It is my absolute pleasure to be speaking with you today, Professor. Thank you so much. It's such an honor.
Arpit, it's my pleasure to be here with you today to have a chance to talk about my recent book. So thank you for having me here.
Professor, let me start by asking you. We have collectively been through the pandemic, months of lockdown with nothing much to do, each day bringing stories of horror and dread, hearing of the unfortunate passing of friends and neighbors and family members. It's been terrible. And this experience has led many to become a bit more conscious of their own mortality, perhaps, and through it, search for answers, look for purpose. But at a corporate level, would you say large companies too are increasingly post-pandemic trying to find purpose?
So there's no question, Arpit, the pandemic has been a kind of a game changer in the way all of us think about our lives, our personal lives. What am I doing with my life, actually? But when we think about our lives, we start to ask ourselves that my life work is part of my life. So does work also give me meaning? And there was a time when we could say there's work-life balance. So I have my work and then my life. I think there's a movement towards people looking for more, I would say, kind of synchrony, connection, harmony between what my work purpose is and my life purposes. Can I also do more purposeful work? So this is definitely on the uptick. And I think companies are noticing that in this war for talent, who do I want to have working for me? More purposeful individuals who want to find purpose at work, or more transactional individuals who are looking for a job? So definitely some, I would say, employee-based movement. But I think the purpose movement for companies predates that. You can go back and look at, for the last decade, Larry Fink writing letters to public company CEOs talking about have a purpose. Because the larger question was, how can businesses think about their businesses in the long run? And when you start thinking long run, you naturally think stakeholder. And there was growing societal pressure on businesses to stake out and say, tell me what your long-term vision is, tell me what your multi-stakeholder vision is. And all this got encapsulated in this simple idea, tell me what your purpose is.
Professor Gulati, in the preface of this book, you speak about how your mother started her garment business. And though she did not articulate it this way, but it was clear that her business was not only to earn a living, but to realize a higher social purpose. Now, she did not go to a B school, and yet she ran her business in a manner that many corporates would want to run theirs. How do you explain this? Would you say that finding purpose perhaps comes a bit easier to those who have been brought up in countries with complex socioeconomic structures such as China, Brazil, India, where the sense of community is quite dominant?
I think this is an excellent question, Arpit. And I think one could argue that maybe businesses are more focused on understanding the stakeholders they are serving in these communities. But I think this is an idea that dates back in time. It was true 100 years ago, even a couple of 100 years ago in England, when businesses went to get a license from government, you had to get a license and a permit, you had to state a purpose. It was legally binding purpose, and it couldn't just be making money. This purpose clause got diluted over time. And I think where you see this most salient is in small companies usually. So a lot of, not all, a lot of small ventures, the founder will usually have some ambition beyond, I want to make money and sell a product. I want to change the way this market operates. I want to change the way this thing is done. And when in that expansive vision, they imagine the stakeholders who will be in a win-win conversation with them, that I will help you. My mother's case, she needed to have large quantities of hand-printed fabric. There was no way individuals who had one table were going to deliver it for her. So she felt compelled, like, I'll loan you money, you go buy 10 tables and rent a facility where you can run a business for me. So, naturally, I think entrepreneurs are looking for expansive ways about ideas and ideals. But I think, so it's hard for me to say it's happening more in certain cultures. I would definitely say more in certain sizes of organizations. And I think there's a revival of this thinking that businesses need to imagine their place in the world. It energizes them in a different kind of way.
Professor Gulati, I want to read a passage from your book, and I think our viewers will relate to this. This is from page 61. If Zuckerberg thought a superficial embrace of its purpose would allow Facebook to score points with its customers, he was mistaken. In 2020, an initiative called Stop Hate for Profit urged businesses to suspend their advertising on Facebook for 30 days as a means of financially forcing change on the platform. Over 1,000 brands quickly signed up, including large advertisers such as Coca-Cola. Although the financial impact of the campaign appears to have been fairly insignificant, Facebook's failure to live up to its purpose caused a broader erosion of its brand reputation amongst customers and users of the platform. According to one ranking of the 100 most visible US companies, Facebook's ranking dropped from number 50 on the list to 94, all in a span of 1 year, 2018 to 2019. Professor, would you agree that in recent years, this has been perhaps one of the most visible examples of what happens when a brand does not stay true to its purpose or promise?
Absolutely. I think to me, the most frustrating part of this whole exercise has been finding companies that engage in what I in the book called superficial purpose, right? The worst, most egregious examples are where they just kind of use it to mask and cover up what they're trying to do. Theranos had a purpose. Purdue Pharmaceuticals, that was responsible for the OxyContin epidemic, had a purpose. Both are accused and found guilty of fraud. Enron had a purpose, and Facebook, just when they were in trouble, pulled out a purpose saying, and think of the purpose, what they said, to give people the power to build community and bring the world closer together, right? And so you start to see, in fact, this led the Financial Times to do a short piece called The Baffling Search for Purpose in Purpose Statements. And this kind of behavior brings the cynics out in full force, who call purpose as virtue washing, virtue cloaking, and they say this is all, dismiss this completely, don't even bother. And I think unfortunate byproduct of that is that we just think purpose is just another one of those PR exercises, for many it is. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. I think we have to understand that purpose can be a compass that gives you direction on where we are going and why we are going as we are going through stormy waters. It also is an operating system that really energizes the organization. What kind of people do you have working for you? How do you engage with your customers? Does it create more loyalty and trust? How do you engage with your ecosystem of partners? Does it change the connection? We like to say that, in economics, we talk about a firm as a nexus of contracts, which is a very inert, I would say, arid view of the world. And the idea here is we want to change that from a nexus of contracts to a nexus of commitments, right? How do we do that? And I think this kind of behavior is not going to get you there. So the ones who are going beyond, I think, are what I call deep purpose. I didn't want to call my book Deep Purpose. I wanted to call it Purpose. But unfortunately, I needed a 2-word title because I found so much superficial purpose out there. And to distinguish from that, I said, look, how do you go deep with purpose?
Well, that is about all the time we have today. We will have to leave it there, I'm afraid. But before we call it a day, let me read out another excerpt from this fascinating book. This is on page 194. Pursuing an ideal is often uncomfortable, even excruciating. A deep purpose leaders soldier on, inspired by their intent and determined to do their very best. As dedicated members of a moral community, they remain fixated on their ideal with all their hearts and souls, bound to it by an almost religious fervor. Great ideas have the power, but only grand ideals can capture our collective imaginations and harness our energies to the fullest. They empower us to persevere against hardships and over time to change our organizations and the world. I hope your organization pursues an inspiring ideal come what may. And for the sake of all your stakeholders and the society at large, I hope you pursue it deeply. Thank you, Professor. That is so beautifully put. Viewers, this book is available in India now. Grab a copy if you can.
Arpit, thank you so much. It was really a pleasure to have this chance to talk to you. And I'm really looking forward to hearing further comments on the book. You're welcome to react to it on my LinkedIn page or any other forum you would like. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor.